Hello and welcome to yet another session. Today we are going to talk about how the board is set up and how certain pieces move. We have the board which has black pieces on one side and white pieces on the other side. So where there's 1 and 2, that's where you put white pieces. Where there's 8 and 7, that's where you put black pieces. So on the white side, we have the rook on A1, the knight on B1, the bishop on C1, the queen on D1, the king on E1, the bishop on F1, the knight on G1, and another rook on H1. And on the second rank, we have pawns. Same applies to the other side of the board. For black, we have the rook, the knight, the bishop, the queen, the king, the bishop, the knight, the rook, and the pawns. So normally there are certain boards that don't have numbers and letters. So you may want to use, when you set up the board, on your left side, that's where there's a dark square on the corner. That's where white pieces are supposed to be. The left side, like here in this case, it's A1. Okay, so this is how the board is set. So normally when we start the game, we normally start with the pawns because pawns are the first pieces in the front row that are able to open up for other pieces to come out, like the knights and the bishops, the queen, and the king sometimes, the rooks. The knight is the only piece on the board that is able to jump over pawns or any other piece. The rest of the pieces, you need to move pawns or another piece out of the way for it to move. So for example, I'm playing white. The first move I play is the knight to C3. Just hold on. So the first move is knight to C3. That's the first opening for white. So white attacks, black defense. Followed by maybe knight, black plays the pawn to E5. So the pawn to E5 has opened up for two pieces. The queen is able to come out and the bishop is able to come out. So the black bishop can move from F8 all the way up to A3. So white's turn, and then white plays E4. So here is just a matter of trying to see how pieces normally move. So white plays E4. Black decides to play the bishop on C5. White plays another knight on F3. As you can see, the two knights are able to jump over the pawns. The pawn which is on F2, this other one jumped the pawn which is on C2. So black plays the knight on F6. White plays bishop on C4. Black plays the pawn on D6. White plays the pawn on D3. Black plays knight on C6. White plays bishop on G5. Black plays bishop on G4. So when you're playing chess, normally there are three things we need to consider when you're playing. There's the opening, the middle game, and the end game. So when I say the opening, which means you need to develop the pieces. Like in this case, I've developed the pieces. The minor pieces are knights and bishops. So minor pieces have to come out first. Then you need to protect the king all the time. So there's a move in chess we call castling. So you move the king 2 squares to either left or right, as long as there are no pieces in between the squares. So like for instance, it's white to play, white plays queen to e2, and black plays queen to e7. So as you can see, both sides on the queen side and the king side, there are no pieces on either side. So if white decides to castle, move 2 squares from E to G1, then the rook jumps over to F1. So the rook moves 2 squares also. This is the only time a king can move 2 squares forward or whichever direction. The only time the king can move 2 squares is when you're castling. Okay, so now it's black turn. So white castled to the king side. It's called short castling because this is where normally we set up the king. Black is going to castle to the queen side. So this is called long castling. So it's still the same procedure, 2 squares, then the rook jumps over. So this is king side castling. This is queen side castling. So when you castle in this manner, all the knights and bishops are out. The development is done. So the opening for chess is done. So today the main focus is on the opening and how pieces move. So we've developed the knights, we developed the bishops, the queen is out, and we've castled. Let me just play it back again. So the first move was the knight. On the other side, the response was the same with the pawn, another pawn, the bishop, the knight, knight, bishop, pawn, knight, bishop, bishop, queen, queen, castle, castle. So we are done with the opening. As you can see, we're able to develop all our pieces. The minor pieces are out, the knights and the bishops are out. We've castled, the opening is done. Thank you for sharing the video with me. We'll see you in the next session.